Okay, this is the actuator right here. That's what slides a little hub in there. That's what I've been told. Back and forth, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. Like right now, it's in two-wheel drive, and if I turn the tire, it's absolutely quiet. Propeller shaft is rotating there just like it should, no noise. Now, if I hit the switch and go to four-wheel drive, this actuator makes a little whining noise. Excuse me, a little whining noise. And when I rotate the wheel, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a slight little clicking noise, and it's not engaged. And what I'm thinking is that hub probably doesn't slide forward or rearward, whichever, enough to engage, or it was engaged and it's stripped out. Now, this thing's only got 500 hours on it. There should be no goddamn stripping going on. And I'm very careful with it. Always at a dead stop when I shift it, but 98% of the time it's in four-wheel drive all the time. This country's rough, so anyway, I'm going to take this thing off and look at it, and I'll either smile or cry, one or the other. Well, okay, I'm about ready to unscrew that thing. This plate right here, you know, those engineers got to be smoking dope. Anyway, I got this emergency brake, this brake pedal here, all squirreled out of the road. Got the spring stretched about 4 feet. But I'm going to pull that off of there now. One of the guys that I talked to on the CanAm forum said there's nothing's going to blow up or pop out, so should know what's going on in about 10 minutes. Okay, I got this little part, and I looked at it. This thing right here slides back and forth. When it slides all the way up like that, that's four-wheel drive. Okay, I slid this thing back and looked at that shaft right there, and the teeth look good. So I was sitting here going, well, crap. You know, maybe it's the inside of this thing right here is sheared off or something. So I kept messing with it, and it just looked too good. You know what I'm saying? Right up in here, that shaft. You can't see it with the camera, but it looked good. So I'm going, golly. So I'm turning the front end. When I got it locked in four-wheel drive, if you can hear this, listen. Hear that clicking? So I'm turning the front end, and I go over here. Look at that drive line. You see that spline right there? That's where it's slipping. Fuck me. Right there. See that? Can you see that? See that? See how that's turning, but the shaft ain't turning? Right there. Pardon my French a minute ago. I'll be damned. Now, earlier, this was all covered with snow right here, so you know, and I'm thinking that's all one shaft, but it ain't. It's like, hell, I don't know. I don't even know how to take it apart. I'll work on it. Can you see that? That thing is ate up pretty bad. Yeah, trying to get the light right. See, there's only about 3/8 of an inch thread left. And see that snap ring on there? What I'm thinking, just to get this thing into spring and summer, is get that snap ring off of there, do some Mickey Mouse so that coupler slides up beyond that snap ring. Now, that's not a good deal, but then maybe I could get through until summer. That shaft absolutely has to be replaced, and that's an engine pull. This this is CanAm's fault. This is a CanAm problem. I got on them forums, the CanAm forums, and this is not odd. This has been happening quite a bit to the later model 850s. Whoever's putting these shit together isn't doing it right. So, okay, this is how that thing goes together. This collar slides onto the output shaft coming out of the gearbox. Then that washer goes in. Then that bolt goes in and screws in to the end of the output shaft on the gearbox. And then this drive line, that gear slides into there, splines into that. The boot goes on. This one splines into the collar similar to this guy here on the front end. And then that boot goes on. When I took it apart, when I pulled this off of the output shaft, I pulled it off and this bolt literally fell out. Normally, when everything is right, you'd have to go in there, unscrew that bolt to get this off of the output shaft. So what's ruined this thing right here, what's messed it up, is that bolt was either never put in or it came loose, which allowed this to slide back and forth on that output shaft, and it stripped. Now, here's what was weird. I found this washer kind of glued against this gear right here. For that to have happened, the bolt would have had to back out, the washer fell off, and in the somewhere, the washer made its way by the bolt and then ended up almost glued, it was greasy, glued to the end of this gear right here. And I'm just a common sense guy, and what it tells me is the sucker that put this together didn't put the bolt in. It just, I don't know. And if he did, and it worked its way out, it's amazing to me. Anyway, so what I need to talk to Don Fritz about at Polaris down there is this collar right here is like $70 just for this thing. Now, the teeth on the inside don't look that bad. The shaft is wore out really bad, as you saw, as you see here on the video, but this thing doesn't look that bad. So, but here's another thing I'm thinking about doing, Jim. Being that the end of that input shaft is screwed up for about a ½ inch, I'm thinking, I took the snap ring off of that input shaft. You've seen the snap ring on there. I took that off. That would let this thing slide another ½ inch further up onto those good gears. So it actually have about a ½ inch of bearing on good gears. And then what I'm thinking about doing is grinding off the end of that output shaft about 1/8 of an inch, which would let this thing slide further on into good gears, and it would get us through until next summer or spring. That output shaft needs to be replaced. It's thrashed really bad to make the quad 100% again. But if I could get this thing on another ½ of an inch further on, onto those gears that aren't thrashed, I'd have about a ½ inch of good gears. You know, if you look at this thing, those teeth just don't look that beat up to me. They just don't. See that? And that's where it was all. I think this collar is much harder than that shaft in there, and this thing just ate it up. It's probably wore a little bit, so I think I'm going to just shine on buying a new one of these, because I can nut that thing down. I can slide it on another 3/16 of an inch further than it's ever been, and tight, so it can't move. So I think I'm going to do that. I just, for now, because we're going to have to replace all this shit anyway, so why spend the money right now if you don't have to? Okay, with that collar bolted onto the output shaft coming out of the gearbox, and the collar on the differential bolted on. Okay. Here, this drive line is almost impossible, well, it is impossible, to get it on. Because you can't go in at an angle either right there or here at the differential. It ain't going to happen. So, see, when I pulled it apart, this collar right here, this collar came off, and when it slid off, I was able to swing it out and pull that shit out of there. So now I'm going to have to go look or talk to the guys on the forum. I think you got to loosen this front end up and either twist it or slide it, I don't know what the hell you do, in order to put it back together. Now I took that snap ring and stuff out of there, and I got a bolt. This is all bolted down, not tight, just, you know, loose. But it's way past where the snap ring was. And like I said earlier, this don't look that wore out. This don't look that beat up. I think it ate the shaft up, but I think this is harder. Now, it's probably wore a little bit, but I'm thinking if I can just nut that thing down right into that thing hard, it'll get me by. Okay, I got the needed parts ordered to put this thing back together. Okay, with that collar right here bumped up against the shaft, as you can see, I need to move the front differential. Looks like about 3/8 of an inch right here. So that the shaft will go up and slide onto the output shaft of the gearbox. So I'm just going to loosen this differential up and rotate it. I went on, looked at some stuff, and I kind of think that's what you do. And you got a bolt there. You got a bolt down there in the back, and there's one up on top. Now that one up on top's got some crap in the road, so I may not be able to get it out easily. So I'm thinking I just leave it in and just rotate this differential up. Just shove it up. If I can shove it up enough to get this straight, then where that'll slide on and then slide back, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. All right, I took that bottom bolt out right there. You can see it right down in there. And then I took the bolt right out there. See where it slid right there. Then I just took a bar and I rotated the differential up right there. The bolt on top is still in there. Okay, and as you can see, there's just enough clearance there to slide this little guy in and out right here. So you can bolt that collar on right there, slide that little guy in, and then rotate the differential back down and slide that forward into the differential. And then, rotate the differential down, make sure that's in the thing, then slide the differential back where it goes. So, now all I got to do is get parts. It's time to put this thing back together with that shot shaft there. What I'm going to do is slide that collar on. As you see, the snap ring's gone. I'm going to slide that collar on, and it barely starts to catch the teeth behind the snap ring groove, but every little bit's going to help. And then I'm going to run the bolt in, and what I've done with the bolt is just simply I've just put a snap ring on. I added a snap ring to it, but I'm going to put the dope on the threads, and then a snap ring or lock ring, and run that thing and nut it down, and then I'm actually going to weld it. So there on the shaft, right here, it'll actually I'll weld it all the way around. The shaft is shot. Got to be replaced anybody. And I got to get 4 months of this thing running in snow and some pretty steep pulls. So it's got to stay together. Anyway, that's where I'm right now. So I'll film this like step by step, but I can't film and work at the same time. I got, this is a little 2-gear shaft between the output shaft on the gearbox and the differential. This is the front side. I got the snap rings on and the boots on. The snap ring that goes here, I got it hanging on the thing, on the output shaft on the gearbox. So now I'll put that in and lower the differential. Now it's 30 degrees this morning here, and these little rubbers are really stiff. So I got an air blower, a hot air blower. So I may have to heat them up to actually slide them where they go. This one right here is really rigid. It's tough. So anyway, it's not going to be easy. Working underneath here with all this, without tearing more stuff out of here, this is just a friggin' nightmare. But this, let me see here. Okay, this clamp right here, I got it on a little bit crooked. If I rotate this thing, see the rubber sticking out right there? That's not a good deal. So then when I went to fasten this one, oh Lord, I stretching and pulling and all that crap. Now this little flexible boot, all it does is keep the dirt out. This boot back here, which is together really good, this is what keeps the shaft from moving. This is bolted down hard to the output shaft. Then this is a very rigid boot. This keeps everything from moving. So that shaft isn't going to move. So this basically just keeps the dirt out. So I don't have to worry too much about it, I guess. But I only got to get by, what, 4 months into March, April. And then I'll keep an eye on it. And when I ordered these, I ordered 2 sets. But Dawn didn't get them, so now I'll just put this thing back together. The rest is all pretty straightforward. But that, you know, anybody's going to do this, you better have some tools laying around, because I don't even want to get into what I went through to make all that work. But pretty hairy, actually. Trying to figure out how I'm going to weld this thing. Not easy to get to. I think I'm going to have to go from under here, right under here like this, I think. And no big deal, but I'm going to weld it all the way around. So if something goes haywire with the rest of this, then park it, I guess.
We all have brains, and we all need relationships.
This is exciting to me, Ingrid, because this is so relevant today. There's so much discussion about trauma. So many people that I see as a physician have been traumatized in various ways. I might be seeing this behind blood pressure.
Got that welded, but it's pretty rough. Stick welder, this is, you know, that old stick welder, this is just not a good deal for it. That's for building trailers and that kind of stuff. Now this, maybe a little wire welder where you could get in there really neat. What worried me is I tapped the block right here with the rod, just for an instant. But growing up as a kid, that really screws stuff up, especially if it passes through a bearing or something. Anyway, that is not a good weld, but there's a couple, 2 or 3 places it looks like it held pretty good, or got a good bite. It was really hard. I was just fighting it steady. Well, this thing is pretty much ready to go. I'm just gonna, all the suspension's bolted up, everything. I'm gonna put the plastic back on and go see. Yeah, I got it back together. I've been running it about, let's see, like 4 days now or something like that. I've been watching those boots in front, and they haven't moved. To get a good look at the back there where it's welded, I've got to tear some plastic off. So I'll do that here in another few days if it warms up a little bit. But all in all, it's pulling good. There's no noise, yada yada yada. So all I gotta do is get into spring. I'm snowbound, so I can't get it out to work on it. So anyway, hope this video helps somebody else that's in a jam and needs to Mickey Mouse it, you know, together to get a Band-Aid on it and make it work. All right, and also, thanks for all the help on the CanAm forum. A lot of you guys had some ideas there that really helped me, so thank you.